welcome everybody to another Sacred Wisdom podcast. In today's podcast, we are going to discuss the amazing anomaly called 3I Atlas, and it is quite incredible when you start looking into this. I really don't think people are aware how amazing this actually is. This is defying pretty much most of our science. It's definitely disrupting a lot of things, and a lot of questions to be asked. And of course, Stephen had a massive look into it and has really gone into detail and at certain things that could be possibilities. All right, we can't obviously say for sure these, but there is certain bits of information that are coming through now, which is pretty far out, and we're going to share that with you today. So, welcome, Stephen.
Hello, Zach.
Thank you for coming again. It's nice to see you here.
Thank you, and how are you?
Very good, my brother. Always good. And yourself, how are you?
I'm well.
The 3I Atlas is just, it's blew my mind. Obviously, the moment I heard it, I thought, well, is it Project Bluebeam? You know, is it all this? Obviously, NASA are describing it. Are NASA telling the truth? Are they saying this?
Yeah.
But there really is some real evidence for this being really something quite real, isn't it?
So if we just go back to when what we've been told is the date that it was discovered. So we have been officially given the information that 3I Atlas, which is also known as C2025N1, was discovered by the asteroid Terrestrial-impact Last Alert System, or ATLAS, in the Rio Hurtado commune of the Lemuri province of the 4th Coquimbo region in central Chile on Tuesday the 1st of July 2025. Now, that's what we've been told, but there is many rumours that 3I Atlas, or C2025N1, was known about through the many months in 2023. Now, again, this is all open to speculation. Nothing's been confirmed by any scientists from the National Aeronautics or Space Administration, NASA, or European Space Agency, or ESA.
First and foremost, I just want you to discuss what actually is 3I Atlas. So, because people, you know, what do you see 3I Atlas as? We'll come to the dates and all this, but really, obviously, been told that it's a possibly comet. And there's further research that says it's not.
It's not.
Elon Musk says it's a spaceship.
To simplify it down to begin with, it's not a comet.
Yeah.
So a comet has a tail. Comets will have a high quantity of both iron and nickel. As they get closer in towards our G2 yellow dwarf star known as the Sun, therefore, you know, obviously moving into the midway areas of the solar system, they start to exude vast amounts of carbon dioxide or gas. And a lot of this isn't taking place. Number one, 3I Atlas does not have any iron content that has been measured or detected by scientists from NASA or the ESA, as well as many astrophysicists and other individuals at various colleges and universities around planet Earth. So it came in a very steep parabolic entry point into the solar system. Well, that which means is the plane, if you like, of the solar system. It came in literally above the solar system and travelled very sharply and steeply down into it. This is completely unheard of with all historical narratives to do with comets. Another aspect is all comets, like say small to medium-sized asteroids or meteorites, will tumble randomly into the solar system, being caught up in the gravitational fields of perhaps the say Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune in the outer solar system, or the gravity field of our yellow dwarf star. And what has happened is there isn't any random movement being found with 3I Atlas. And this is exactly the same has been found with the ʻOumuamua and 2I Borisov, which are objects.
So these were the previous.
These were the predecessors,
yes.
Both of which were interstellar objects that entered our solar system. And obviously, for those of you who don't know what interstellar means, it means between star systems, which means these are galactic, objects. They're traveling over literally 50, 60, 70, 80,000 years or more. They're traveling during that time over hundreds, if not thousands of light years. across, you know, vast tracts of interstellar space.
And just to simplify it down, interstellar means outside of our solar system.
Yeah, it's come from another star system and entered our star system and gone through, you know, literally hundreds of billions, if not more, miles or kilometres of open space basically to get here. So what we know is that this object apparently, as I've said, was detected on Tuesday the 1st of July 2025, and 3I Atlas or C 2025N1, from what is now coming to light with the various kinds of data using techno-signatures, metallic scanning and so forth, it is not any kind of ordinary comet, and there are too many anomalies that are being consistently measured. For example, its speed is far too precise. Many individuals are now looking, for example, at where there should be a comet tail, the actual exusions from the rear of this object 3I Atlas, which really, in my opinion, is some kind of prehistoric spacecraft. It's been around, I think, for a vast tract of time.
I was going to ask, what do you think it is? Well, go on, explain the normal. Sorry. I'm excited.
What is also believed to be the case is that, and again, this is open to some speculation, is that 3I Atlas or C 2025N1 actually came from a stellar mass known as Ross 154, which is based in the Sagittarius constellation. So Ross 154, obviously, it can be assumed has planets and moons that orbit Ross 154 in the Sagittarius constellation, which is around 9.71 light years from planet Earth.
Right.
So it's actually very nearby in terms of, I mean, some you know, the distances in the physical universe, not just in the Milky Way galaxy or the Sagittarius dwarf spheroidal galaxy, which literally is completely adjacent to the Milky Way galaxy, or even somewhere much further away, like the Andromeda galaxy.
Yeah.
We're looking. You've got to understand
the
that.
Vastness
I mean, the vastness in this physical universe. There's at least 4,500 trillion galaxies. Most have around, possibly around 380 million to around 420 million stars.
Yeah.
So mathematically, the amount of inhabitable planets and moons is incalculable, is beyond number, beyond real understanding, I suppose, on a mathematical level. So, you know, the idea that Homo sapiens or human beings here on planet Earth in this rather diminutive, we're in quite a diminutive solar system. We have a G2 yellow dwarf star. Our Earth is a below average size, oxygen enriched world. It isn't really anything that spectacular. There are hundreds of billions and trillions of worlds out there in the material dimension that have probably ecosystems just as diverse as planet Earth. So when we look at 3I Atlas or C 2025N1 entering our solar system, as with ʻOumuamua, came into this solar system, it was shown to have a mathematically precise tumble rate as it entered the solar system, and it was shown and monitored by scientists from NASA and scientists from the European Space Agency, or the ESA, to have a mathematically precise tumble rate all the way through its trajectory into and out of the solar system. Even when it was getting nearer and nearer to our G2 yellow dwarf star, which has an incredibly powerful gravity field, it should have technically accelerated. The tumble rate remained precisely and exactly the same. Not only did it have a tumble rate, so it was moving forward with centrifugal force to create an artificial gravity field, it was also had what appeared to be a rotational spin rate on its axes, which creates literally a gyroscopic motion, and that could have been to do with a propulsion element, to do with an onboard nuclear motor. So we know that was the initial kind of interstellar object, ʻOumuamua, and then 2I Borisov came in, and that was, the shape of that really was indistinguishable. It was a lot smaller, but it was like a pale whitish bluish luminescent sort of oblong object that came in and went back out of the solar system, and now we have 3I Atlas that has entered our solar system. And you know, we're going to go on to talking about the two quite important remote viewing sessions that are taking place with 3i Atlas with two very credible individuals, and these are available on the Pacific YouTube channels they've been uploaded to. And I think we need to go on and discuss that as well.
I agree.
And what is actually going on up there with 3i Atlas. We know, for example, that there is theories that it has a highly reflective surface. We know, for example, there was a remote viewing session done with David Powell on the Encounters USA.
Just say to people, anyone watching and doesn't understand remote viewing, this is being used throughout all the intelligence agencies. This is not any kind of airy-fairy idea. This is very real. Remote viewing has been used from, you know, big organisations to locate all sorts of different things, from precious metals to solving crimes. You know, it goes on, even going on to Mars and all this. What you're saying, Joseph
Mochnamigel obviously did a remote viewing session with the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, in 1984, looking at Mars around 950,000 BC to 1 million BC, and there was the remnants of some very advanced, antediluvian civilization that existed there. That aside, obviously, you can also read the book Penetration by Ingo Douglas Swan, who was classed as the father of remote viewing. He was an absolute genius. He really was an incredible individual. So, but when we look at the remote viewing session that was done with David Powell, this was uploaded and put on the Encounters USA YouTube channel on Friday the 8th of August 2025. Now, what was seen inside shall we say, the excavated out structure of...
Because that's the way they're seeing it. They're seeing an excavated... It looks like a rock on the outside, right?
No, that nobody can see what it is.
Right.
So it's very highly reflective. There's a lot of intense luminescence.
So tell us about the David Powell remote viewing session.
Okay, so what was found in this interview that took place on the Encounters USA YouTube channel with this remote viewing session with, concerning the interior structure of 3i Atlas or C2025N1 was reptoid aliens. They weren't the reptilian agenda that is talked about. So these were beings that had certain characteristics but weren't actually seen in that way as complete reptilian. So they were bioetheric entities and possibly robotic type beings or enormous looking robots that were radiated a lot of light or luminescence. We also have the information that has come from the Bard Professor of Science and the Institute Director at Harvard University, known as Avi Loeb, who is consistent in his data, his research is about 3i Atlas, that the actual object is likely to be a massive UFO or interstellar structure of some type we could define as a spaceship or a spacecraft. And as I've already said, it's been speculated on many accounts now that it has actually originated from Ross 154 in the Sagittarius constellation.
Yeah, and the Ross 1, wasn't that a few years back, I don't know the exact time, they actually detected radio signals from that direction, didn't they?
Well, there was a number of radio signal transmissions sent out to the area where Ross 154 is in the Sagittarius constellation throughout many months, I think from January through to December, intermittently in 1977. It's interesting to note that date, and then you look at obviously Close Encounters of the Third Kind and what happens at the end of that movie. What we're looking at, remember when you see Richard Dreyfuss, the actor who plays the main protagonist in that movie, and you see he's there at this covert facility, and you start seeing little geometric shaped UFO craft moving through the sky. They get bigger, more complex, more different light patterns of radiance, and suddenly this vast cloud structure appears. And the wind kicks up, and it's the mothership. It's the prime ship, if you like, of these extraterrestrials. And this again, this is only speculation, but if you take a look at ʻOumuamua as the first interstellar visiting object in the solar system. You look at 2i Borisov, now we have 3i Atlas or C2025N1. And then I'm going to come on and talk now about the next remote viewing session, which is very important.
Yeah,
okay.
no, please do.
But I just want to say that Avi Loeb, as I said, who is the Bard Professor of Science and Institute Director at Harvard University, so he's a highly credible academic and individual, he is still reiterating his alien origin hypothesis for 3i Atlas.
Yeah.
So he really, there's
nobody is sure.
Nobody is sure. But
No,
what is coming tonight is there are so many anomalies and so many anomalies still arising, and none of which match anything that we would understand about a comet or a small asteroid or a meteor. And as I said before, a comet would randomly come into the solar system, tumbling. It doesn't have an exact, precise trajectory, and I would explain with the tumble rate and the rotational spin rate.
Yeah.
With the ʻOumuamua, which was mathematically precise all the way through its trajectory in and out, even when it was nearing our G2 yellow dwarf star. Again, doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So on Sunday the 31st of August 2025, the remote viewer from the Future Forecasting Group, or FFG, Richard Algai, was interviewed about the 3i Atlas, or C2025N1 object, spacecraft we might call it, by John Claude on the Wacky Woo Show and the Beyond Mystic podcast on YouTube. And Richard Algai described, initially he had two double-blind protocol target ID remote viewing sessions that were interconnected in the same 24-hour period. Yeah. And the initial aspect of really what was one remote viewing session was done in two segments, was that he initially sensed mass and motion. He saw the darkness of outer space. He saw then twinkling stars, which you'd see at high altitude, say in the Andean mountains in Peru or Bolivia in South America. And then literally his own consciousness moved in to what we would class as our solar system. And you see the outer lying planets like Jupiter and Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and the planetoid we now call obviously Pluto. And then he could see this object, and it was moving at an incredible velocity. And I just want to say this, that when it comes to the asteroid terrestrial-impact last alert system, ATILAS, in central Chile, we know from the initial calculations there and subsequent calculations done by academics that this object, 3i Atlas, is traveling around 59 kilometers a second, which is around 208,000 kilometers an hour. Very, very fast. Very, very fast. And so if it's come from in an orbit around Ross 154, and this is all theoretical, in the Sagittarius constellation, it's traveled 9.71 light years to get here. Why on earth is it coming here? This is the third. It just seems massively coincidental, and the behaviour and characteristics of these objects coming in don't make any sense whatsoever. So Richard Algai described the mass and motion on the Wacky Woo Show and the Beyond Mystic podcast on the YouTube channel. He was saying that he described a huge steep parabolic entry. He said this object was vast. Some individuals say it's around 46 kilometres in length and around 8 kilometres wide. Some say it's 21 kilometres in length and 8 kilometres wide. Again, that suggests that there is a luminescent field of gases, possibly carbon dioxide. There's metallic reflectivity going on as it gets nearer the G2 yellow dwarf star. So you see direct sunlight on, say, the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean on a very bright day. The light reflectivity and the light obviously reflecting from the sun onto the moon, like Jesse during a full moon, is very intense, okay? And obviously that's much closer in orbit around planet Earth. And so he saw this, and he described in the first part of this remote viewing session what he could see, what appeared to be a vast tractor beam going throughout the solar system, beyond the outer solar system, which would be beyond presumably the trans-Neptunian objects, the Grey Oort cloud, so going way past Pluto and Charon, going out to somewhere unknown in deep space. Now, if you've got an object that says apparently around 46 kilometers in length and 8 kilometers wide, that is traveling at over 208,000 kilometers an hour in our solar system, with a tractor beam that in a remote viewing session with Richard Algai at the Future Forecasting FFG is seen to be steering this object in. The object was seen to have some kind of AI navigation system installed inside itself, that is 3i Atlas. So that in itself is very, very, very interesting. Now, the second aspect to the remote viewing session when he went back in was to go really inside the object.
Yeah.
And going into the object, what was seen was described as bat-like interdimensional shape-shifting entities. And he saw what appeared to be humanoids, and these entities attaching while they were shape-shifting. They were literally bioetheric, so they weren't corporeal, they weren't biological.
At this stage, anyone that's used to the normal reality is just kind of completely
we'll have to
jumped
forget
out.
all that now. We have entered
completely jumped out of their skin.
We've entered
but,
the
you know,
woo-woo.
this is a remote viewing session.
That apparently Richard Algar described to the interviewer how he was very disturbed. It felt almost like he was looking at some kind of demonic possession. And then it was purported that possibly the idea of Archons 2.0 was this interstellar object, some kind of vast antediluvian and prehistoric containment ship that contained very, very dark, very potent shape-shifting entities that can negatively influence perhaps human consciousness, the emotions and thoughts of humans, and it's coming into our solar system, and this may be seen perhaps as a spiritual test for Homo sapiens or human beings. So that in itself could be seen as an aspect we need to consider.
Yeah, yeah.
So those were the two aspects. So obviously the first remote viewing session that was done, there was a description giving of reptoids. Now we know from the world mythology and world folklore that in terms of, you know, looking at the past and, you know, the serpent people or the lizard people, the snake people in historical narratives, that they were known to be able to blink in and out of reality. They could literally, at will, psychically shift their own molecular structures, such as we know Sasquatch, the Bigfoot or Yeti can also do. Yeah. These are various kinds of interdimensional hominids.
Beings we yet to understand.
And the same thing with the Zeta Reticulum type A greys, the Zeta Reticulum type B greys, also the tall greys, Orion greys, also known as the Rigelians. So we have all these different sort of bipedal kind of hominids that are interdimensional with advanced kinds of occult technology that we can't really understand. Yeah. And so the first remote viewing session about the robotic entities inside 3i Atlas. And then you have obviously what Richard Algar is saying, you know, it's very, in some ways, it's a bit concerning.
It is, it does.
None of it seems very positive.
No, and I just think, interestingly, you know, for anybody being sceptical on this anomaly, you know, it is very real, and this has been cited in many, many countries, by many people. So this isn't something to disregard, and it's something to understand. It's a, you know, it's kind of, I see it like it's entered our consciousness to reveal something, and whether that's good or bad, I don't know. And by the sounds of what you're talking, it really doesn't sound good. And I think, and we need to be prepared for that. And I don't think people are in any shape or form to consider the fact that we're all going on about cost of living and all this jargon and what's going on in reality, recessions and all this, but what if an alien life did come into the planet?
I mean, for decades, the elites, the policymakers, you know, through, say, academics at Oxford University, Cambridge University, Harvard University, Stanford University, and so on, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, have either been working in collaboration or independently and, you know, transmitting out all these radio signals. You have obviously the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or SETI, and they're all, you know, and this has all been going out there. Obviously, what NASA's been doing, a European Space Agency or the ESA. So
something's happened.
So out there, I would say already. Yeah. I mean, you even see that in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and so I would say they have to be very careful what they're doing, because a lot of extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials are not benevolent and have no interest in the well-being of Homo sapiens or human beings on planet Earth. Yeah. We have to also remember what happened with the US President David Dwight Eisenhower and what was purported to have taken place with the Greada Treaty on the 20th of February 1954 at Murakami Airfield, which is now known as Edwards Air Force Base in Kern County in Southern California. So again, that was less than 9 years after World War II ended on the 8th of May 1945, and you have US President David Dwight Eisenhower making some kind of agreement with the tall greys from the planet Greater, which orbits apparently Rigel A and the Orion constellation.
Now, and even if it wasn't true, the very fact that that story is in circulation in the zeitgeist, it raises. That's why
it's never been refuted or actually outright shown to be a complete fake. And there is a lot of circumstantial evidence that does support the idea that something did take place. What happened, we don't know, but we know that on that day, the United States Air Force at Murakami Airfield, which is now known as Edwards Air Force Base, had well over 4,000, at least I think 4,000 to 4,100 cameras and tripods running. It was very bright, even though it was the 20th of February 1954, and it was still very cold in Southern California. It was still incredibly bright skies and clear day.
And I think what happens is these. It becomes a playful act. It's not like somebody sits there going, "We're going to conjure up," and they play him with this energy, and it's like we spoke about it before. It's like the Ouija board. You get excited. It's like, wow, the glass is moving. But what you're doing there is actually tapping in.
They're playing with
forces. You're playing with demonic energies, and you really don't want to mess with that. And if people really don't understand how powerful that is.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think, touching on what you just said, Zach, is important here, is the magnitude of the scaling up of the size of these objects coming in. So you had ʻOumuamua, then you had 2I Borisov, and these two objects were pretty big. I mean, in terms of what they are, and they, in my opinion, yes, they were both artificially constructed interstellar spaceships of some type. They weren't comets or just cosmic debris. Now we have what appears to be, 3I Atlas functioning as some kind of interstellar spaceship. And it's at least 21 kilometers long by 8 kilometers wide, if not 46 kilometers long and 8 kilometers wide. Now, if that tractor beam is correct, that was seen by Richard Allgaier in that remote viewing session, he works obviously in the Future Forecasting Group, FFG, which really mainly focuses on doing remote viewing sessions for financial investors, for those involved in the precious metals market, to try and get some kind of extra information for investment purposes. But this was a woo-woo subject with this target ID, and it was completely unexpected, and a number of remote viewers who are fully trained and are very expert at what they do got very comparable, corroborative results in terms of the data, which obviously was also very concerning because a lot of it actually could be correlated. But if you think the idea of a tractor beam on an object that fast, moving at that speed, over 208,000 kilometers an hour, at that size, and
what is shooting the tractor beam?
What kind of size and magnitude is the object with that tractor beam out, beyond the perimeter of the outer solar system? That is what I find concerning. If those results from that remote viewing session are credible, and they are. You've got to understand, like you were saying, that for vast amounts of time, for decades, remote viewing is being used, by the United States Army, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, the entire United States intelligence community, the USIC. So they wouldn't get funding on an annual basis for each financial year if there wasn't continual credible results.
And we are, just the very fact on a scientific level, what they're seeing is an anomaly. They're not understanding how it's moving through physics and how it's actually creating all this light around it and the energy around it, and obviously how it's moving so fast as well.
Incredible.
There's so many questions around it, and I think we should keep our eye on it. I think it's going to be. They're saying we get closest to Earth is kind of in the next couple of months, isn't it?
It's going to be it's going to actually get the closest to the sun. It's supposed to be towards the end of October 2025.
Right.
And then it's going to disappear behind the sun.
Right.
And we're going to have to wait and see how long it takes to re-emerge around the sun. Is it going to literally slingshot around?
You just disappear.
We'll see what happens. But, there is perhaps repercussions in terms of how this will affect in the long term human consciousness, because is there going to be the arrival in this solar system maybe sometime in 2026 of an even larger interstellar structure that has been artificially created or manufactured by
planet X,
advanced extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials.
Is this planet X, Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
This is all theory.
All theory and idea.
We just don't know. We don't know.
It's an incredible subject. I advise everyone to look into it, and we're going to do more on it if more comes up, more information comes through.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
See what other people actually. It might even get someone on discussing and talking about it.
Yeah.
But it's mind blowing, and thank you, Stephen, for all your research and information as always. Been amazing, and thank you. And anybody watching, please subscribe if you haven't. And I think as well, you've really got to consider this idea that we have extraterrestrial life, if not already on the planet, outside of us, and there is no. It's not stupid to think that these extraterrestrials could appear one day. It's not, we've had all this for the last 70 years, if you like, ever since the 50s, all the B movies, all this stuff, telling us this possibilities of that, and, all these ideas and people talking about stories. And also, people that have died in the process of releasing information, which is insane. And we're at a point now where we have to release this, really. The information has to come out, and it's exciting, but also as well, it could be something to be quite concerned about, this 3i Atlas. And I think when we look at that like that, we've got to remember what is going to be left that's important, and that is you, and that is doing the work on you and making sure you're in a good space, because outside of yourself, you can't control that exactly. You can, only match your frequency to a good vibration where you're going to match the outside world, and
I'd say
this is a good reality.
I'd say more than any time, this is a time for individuals that are willing to spiritually develop out there, who are viewing this Sacred Wisdom podcast, to really look at considering wanting to move towards the Christ awareness and trying to emulate as much of that, do a lot of inner healing, self-development, whatever it takes, whether you're using transcendental meditation, using Christian prayers, whatever you're using, maybe it's detoxing and dietary changes to improve your energetic resonance. This is the time to do this. Whatever's happening out there in the solar system, it is a little bit of a distraction, but it is also concerning, because if there's a lot of unconsciousness going on with elites and policymakers playing around with the cosmic heavens and sending radio signals out to, Ross 154 in the Sagittarius constellation, and obviously numerous other locations, and assuming there's going to be lots of friendly extraterrestrials and ultra-terrestrials, they may look at it as this is a resources centre, this entire solar system. Oh, we could use this for our own occult technology and build a load more interstellar spaceships. We just don't know, which isn't beneficial to really Homo sapiens or human beings, or to the future of life and the ecosystems even on planet Earth.
Yeah, I agree, Steve, and that's what we want to stop on this planet. This is a degradation, this annihilation of this beauty on this planet, and it seems to, many reasons and ideas why that goes on, but brilliant, Stephen, thank you so much. And look, anybody would like to, please subscribe if you haven't. You can also join the members section, where we have loads of extra content, podcasts and various videos for you to watch, and exclusively made for the member section. There's also loads of information on the Sacred Wisdom podcast, so check out them as well, which we talk about a lot of the UFOs and crash UFOs and all the retrievals and all the stuff that's gone on in the past as well. But it's a vast subject, just as space is, and it's exciting, but it's also like, wow, like, is this really happening,
What we do know is that what is out there to a very large extent is far more advanced than anything that we've got here, even if we have some kind of very extensive secret space program or SSP. It can't be comparable to the vastness of billions upon billions of interstellar civilizations that exist.
That's a good point. We have many leaders of this world at the moment prancing around as if they're like really something special. They're like, we're very small in this universe, in this comparison to this reality.
We exist in a below average sized solar system, on a below average sized planet. And we have a G2 yellow dwarf star, which is very, very small. In terms of the soul personality, we could eventually incarnate as some of those extraterrestrials and ultra-terrestrials, because the biological form, our corporeal form, is literally just a covering that contains the soul personality. You know, the Christ awareness is a universal law across all interstellar civilizations who are ready to receive the Christ awareness. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen out there, they don't all look like Homo sapiens on planet Earth.
Definitely. And the guy to look at there who's very connected, who's a Christ consciousness, is Christopher Bledsoe, you've seen here.
Yeah,
he's
an amazing
yeah.
gentleman. Please do go and look at the research and the extraterrestrial interactions and experiences of Christopher Bledsoe Sr. That man is absolutely amazing. He's humble, he's kind,
Really,
and
he's
very sincere. And I would say to anybody out there, do look into his experiences. They're profound and very positive in terms of extraterrestrial interaction. So.
Yeah, and I think that he gives a very good understanding of the Christ awareness. You know, it's been very distorted on planet Earth and put into all these little boxes and compartments and books and notes and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a vast subject, and we'll talk about that another time.
Absolutely.
But thanks for watching, everybody. Until the next video, it's a bye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.